Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Before the bank account will grow, a leader must grow themselves, and then their people skills, and then their people. That is not a money mindset. That's a wealthy mindset. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I grew up with a poverty mindset, and understanding that a wealthy mindset and a money mindset are not the same thing has been a challenge, mainly because so many people in this world, especially in the leadership category, their focus is on money and not on wealth. See, a wealthy mindset isn't about how much money I put in the bank today. It's about being a legacy builder. It's about what comes behind me. It's about understanding that you're going to have successors. How do you invest in them? Now, see, one of the challenges we have today as leaders is that we're not just competing with other leaders. In fact, I heard someone say the other day, I thought it was pretty brilliant. It's a hard revelation. For years in the speaking industry as leaders and podcast hosts, we've been told your greatest value is in your expertise. Well, there's a fine line of demarcation between knowledge and expertise. And when I say fine line, I mean like it's like thinner than a balloon. Expertise is the combination of data, knowledge, information, and wisdom, which is data, knowledge, and experience together. So now you got the wisdom that creates the expertise. A great illustration of that is when the plant manager called and they're like, look, we've been down for an hour and a half. If we stay down any longer, I have to send people home. But we also are going to be way behind on your manufacturing. We need a repair person in here that's got some kind of skill that none of our current maintenance people have. We need help. And so the uppity ups, they call this old guy who walks in and kind of shows up looking like he's not even sure he's ready for work. He didn't bring any tools at all. It looks like he's basically in his overall pajamas. The end of the day for him. He's ready to go to bed. Walks up to the machine, says, what seems to be the problem? They're like, well, it ain't working. He says, got it. Walks around for a minute, comes back and says, you got a hammer I can borrow? Takes the hammer, walks over to the machine to a very specific space, smacks it with that hammer, and it comes back to life again. And they're like, oh my gosh, what did you do? He said, I just hit it with a hammer. And hands him a bill for $10,000. And they're like, wait, you can't charge me $10,000 to fix a machine when all you did was hit it with a hammer, and it was our hammer. And the guy said, sure I can. Because if you knew where to hit it, you would have already done it. You wouldn't have called me. But I'll take $1,000 off for using your hammer. So you still owe me $9,000 for my expertise. Now see, where that comes into play today when you've got AI agents that are running half of everything you do. I mean, they're already looking at your customer. When the customer comes in, just think through a funnel for a second, for an example. Customer comes into your sphere, your world, and the first thing they ask for is that freebie that you got. Well, maybe you got 5 freebies, and each of those freebies kind of tells you something about the customer. Well, your AI agent's already looking at that information and going, okay, well, they came in from this source, the web, an event you spoke at, another competitor, a collaborator, a business partner. It came in from any one of those sources, but they also asked for this particular thing. And so now I know one of 5 customer journeys that they're going to go on. They're going to get this invitation and that invitation. They're going to get this offer and that offer and this upsell and this downsell. And all of these things are, if you've done the work in the marketing, they're pre-programmed by you. But if you haven't done the work, the AI agent is doing them. And all of that is like the knowledge of the machine. The challenge is just because it goes through all these processes doesn't necessarily mean that it truly understands. I mean, there were maintenance people on staff, presumably. There were people who already worked there who've been working on this machine for years. There were people who could look at that machine and go, yep, needs oil. Need to replace those bearings. I think it's a bad fuse. But this problem was over their heads. It wasn't a lack of knowledge. It was a lack of understanding, which only comes when you take knowledge and you apply it. See, the challenge we're running into these days is that the true leader who's building with a wealthy mindset isn't just looking at the immediate ROI of cash in, cash out. I heard a guy, one of those little stick the interview mic in his face because he's a billionaire kind of things. One of these days I'll learn that young guy's name, but I haven't yet. But he walks up to this guy, he says, hey, question for you. How did you get to be a billionaire? And the first response from this guy was, hey, you interviewed a friend of mine. So that gave him the clout to be able to carry on this conversation. So the guy walks over, he says, I made my first million before I was 26 years old. What? That's pretty impressive. What's the most you've ever made? $3.5 billion in a single year. That's pretty impressive. He said, what's the secret? He said, shaking hands. Shake as many hands as you can, because the more hands you shake, the more money you make. And I thought, well, that sounds like a very simplistic view of reality. But he said, now that I have the kind of money that I have, I spend my day researching about 100 companies a day. And of those 100 companies, I might invest in 4, maybe 5. But the ones that I choose to invest in, I invest in them, some of them as absolute startups, meaning they got nothing. They got no stats. They got no track record. They got no proof of production. They got nothing. They're just launching, which means I'm not buying a company. I'm not buying its assets. I'm not buying its bill of goods or book of business, because those things don't exist yet, which means what I'm buying is you. I'm investing in, I'm writing a check for, I'm putting my hard-earned money, my time, my blood, sweat, and tears into you as the leader. And I've got to believe that you have the capacity, the skill sets to access the right people, to access the right tools, to access the right investments, that if I put my money in, I won't be the only one doing it. There'll be other people that you have access to, that you've proven yourself to, that you've stood toe to toe with, and they went, I like you. I trust you. I believe in you. I think you got a good plan and the moxie to pull it off. See, the challenge we run into as AI agents and other tools such as that, funnels and databases and online marketing tools, they're not just for the space that I'm in. All of those tools, ask Russell Brunson, brick and mortar, plumbers, all of them, air conditioning, all of them are running funnels of some sort. They're basically saying, hey, look over here, look at me, look at me. Let me give you something free to prove that you can trust me. Let me give you something to get this relationship started before the first date. It's the first pickup line. It's the first introduction. It's the first handshake. And if that first handshake goes well, another one follows. Maybe an embrace, maybe a collab. Maybe you actually build a business partner out of this first relationship. But as the agents are continuing to do that for you, there's less and less and less and less human touch, which means in realistic terms, there's going to be a day not too long from now that a company that used to have 400, 500, 600 employees, where you've got a full-blown HR team and a policy team and a legal team and a contracts team and an accounts receivable team and a sales team and a marketing team and a funnel team and a product development team and a customer-facing team and a customer service team. A lot of those are going to be rolled into a few AI agents because they can process data faster. They can answer questions faster. They can take an inbound call. I remember it's been probably 12, 15 years ago. But I had a client whose job it was to manage a call center. And they had different people in this call center who were specifically trained, some in RVs. And when I say RVs, I mean like there's a little 23-year-old young man or young woman who's been brought in as a call center person. Their primary skill set is the intellect to be able to read new information, divest that information, divulge that information, divide it up what do I need to tell them? What do I need to, when do I need to escalate? That's it. And they're not specifically automotive experts or recreational vehicle experts or Ginsu knife experts or Ninja blender experts. But each of these little departments were responsible for the 800 number customer service. And when I got a chance to go in and tour the place and listen to them and watch how they work, they would bring these young people in because they had great communication skills, they had great ability to listen, they had ability to use the keyboard fast enough, the database fast enough, to click on the mouse fast enough that if somebody said, so I've got an RV, and they'd be like, okay, so which model is it? And they would tell them it's manufactured by Ford, or it's this particular brand, or it's this size. And they would know to look at the database or the notebook. Some of them still had giant paper notebooks. And they would look through this notebook and go, okay, so you've got the Ford F450, it's this version. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, and is it the one with the dinette on the left side or the right side? Because that depicts on where your water heater is. Oh, yeah, it's the one on the left side. Great. So your water heater then is going to be located in this door panel. Here's how you fix that. All right. The individual answering those questions has never seen an RV. They don't know where that door is located. They're looking at the photographs. They're looking at the images. They're looking at the database on the screen. They've never been outside their little cubicle, but they've got all this information, this data at hand. Powerful, powerful tool. And if they've got the skill set, the communication skills to look that up and answer the questions, awesome. The challenge we run into really fast, though, is now that we're replacing that skill set, that communication skill, that ability to parse data with an AI agent who has access to so much more data, so much faster, who can process that data. If you can program the right questions, they can answer them from anywhere in the world for pennies on the dollar from an hourly rate. Now, what that means is instead of a team of 500, might get away with 10 tech people and maybe one department head in each one to make sure that the processes are running smooth. But eventually, you might not even need them. You just need a data center and a couple of intermediaries. Now, what does that tell you about the type of people that you've got to surround yourself with? Because there's going to be a lot less of them. There's a lot less margin for error. As a leader with a wealthy mindset, part of what you're looking at is, how do I create longevity in my business? And the answer is, you're going to have to increase not only your IQ, but your EQ and your PQ, your people quotient. John Maxwell talks all the time about getting out of the people pile. You got to get out of the people pile where you've been lumped in with everybody else. You've got to find a way to stand out. Well, now that people pile is looking a lot like discarded refuge. A whole lot of people have been swept aside, replaced by the little agent inside the laptop. As that happens, the few people that you have around you, they better be the smartest. They better be the most capable, the most competent, the most efficient at what they do. And so your wealthy mindset isn't just about, if I put in $10, do I get out 100? It's, if I invest in this person, if I shake hands 100 times a day, if I meet 500 people a year, of those 500, how many will I actually do business with? How many will I actually collaborate with? How many of those will I actually invest in to see what their return is? And am I willing to be honest and say, I'm probably going to take some risks? I mean, I might even take some risk and make some investments and find out that I missed. I was wrong. I trusted somebody that I shouldn't have trusted. I invested where I probably shouldn't have invested. I thought he was a great guy. She was a great gal. I thought they had a great business plan, but I didn't realize they didn't have the skills to execute that plan. That's a whole different kind of a problem. But if you've got the tenacity, the stick-it-with-itness to do that, then you have the ability to build a legacy type business. You have the ability to do something that not everybody can do. You have the ability to create opportunity for people around you, but you've got to up your own game in your own self-development, in your own leadership skills, in your own people skills. And then you've got to invest in the people you bring around you. Because the return on investment isn't just, can I hire another AI agent? Can I pay a team to bring me one more sales rep agent, one AI sales rep who can handle 400 calls a day without ever dialing the phone? But there are agents for inbound and outbound calls now, customer service and sales, perhaps even follow-up. I work with companies that are already using them. It's not my style. I'm pushing back on that as long as I can. I want human-to-human interaction. That's just me. I'm old-fashioned. That's my way. I'm not saying it won't ever change. I'm just saying that's where I am now. I have very limited use for AI. It probably does a lot of things around me that I'm not aware of, but I use it on a very limited basis when I get stumped with a question or I want somebody else's take on something. Sometimes I'll let AI give me another take, give me another view. It's pretty in-depth for that. But when it comes to serving my customers, they're going to get me or they can hire somebody else. If they want to use AI, they should just use AI, not hire somebody else to use AI for them. But that's just my opinion. I want to continue to increase my leadership skills, my people skills, my IQ, and my EQ. Some of the podcasts that we've got coming up, some of these projects demand a little more of me than I have studied in the past. That doesn't mean I'm not going to do them. It means I'm looking at this series going, how far do I want to go with this? How much can I invest in this? How much more can I draw in from the outside to put into this? How much can I point people in a direction that will take them further than I can take them? I believe that's what leaders do. They know the way, they show the way, they go the way. I want to show you the way, but I also know there's going to be people that have a different acumen than I do. That doesn't mean I can't lead them. It just means that they don't have to continue to follow me in every aspect. I don't have one coach. I have 5 or 6. I have coaches that I depend on in spiritual growth. I have people that I depend on in financial world. I have people that I rely on in relationships and improving my communication. And I study all kinds of weird stuff, from communicators that are on stage as big presenters to local comedians, because everybody's got a little something to bring to the table. That's what I'm looking for. I want to know how I can make my skills the best. And that's what I offer to the people that I lead, the people that I serve. I want to take their skills to the next level. And I know some of them, my clients, know things I don't know. They have experiences I haven't experienced. They have knowledge and wisdom and education that I don't have. That improves me. And if I were so arrogant as to assume that because I'm the leader, I'm the one they're paying, I have all the wisdom, I have all the knowledge, I'm a fool. And like the old phrase says, a person who represents themselves in a legal matter as their own attorney, both the client and the attorney have a fool for a client. That's a bit of a problem. If I feel like I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm already wrong. As we continue to move into this fewer and fewer people in the workforce, or migrating to different aspects of the workforce, as leaders continue to rise and grow with the people that are in their charge, we have to acknowledge that those people, their skills, their diversity of understanding is going to have to shift a little bit. What we've always known as expertise, knowledge-based expertise, knowledge with a little bit of time and service, so to speak, that those two things together, that's expertise. Well, knowledge has been outrun. Our knowledge is being outrun every day by AI. Experience doesn't have to be. Knowledge is like the people who worked on the machine every single day and still couldn't figure it out. Expertise is that little bit of extra wisdom with experience that comes in and says, just hit it with a hammer in this place. I can tell you my own true story of that. Thanksgiving several years ago, we drove to Colorado. We met my in-laws at a hotel just south of Denver and spent the night. And the next morning we got up to drive to Thanksgiving dinner at my wife's sister's house. And as we're sitting in the parking lot getting ready to leave, I try to crank the truck and I get nothing. I cranked it for several minutes. I couldn't get anything. I couldn't get it to start. We tried to jump it. We thought maybe it's the cold weather, maybe the engine light coming on because of the altitude was the problem, that it wouldn't crank. We reset it. We disconnected the battery and reset that. We plugged it back in. We checked the pressure on the fuel rails. We did everything we could in that parking lot with the tools that we had. My sons and I were under the truck and on top of the truck in the hood, and nothing. Couldn't get anything going. So I thought, I'm going to have to buy injectors or possibly a fuel pump. That's going to be horrible because this truck, you have to drop the tank or cut a hole through the floor in the back of the Suburban, which is currently filled with luggage. And oh, by the way, it's raining. You don't want to take all that out. So we go to the parts store. And at the parts store, I explained to the guy, this is where I'm at. I don't need to know if I need a fuel rail. Do you have a pressure tester? What about a fuel pump? Do you have any instructions on easier ways to do that, et cetera, et cetera? And a whole guy, an old guy from behind the counter, stands up. He says, what year's your truck? I said, it's an '02. He said, oh, they're notorious for sticky valves in the fuel float. I said, a sticky valve in the fuel float? What does that mean? He said, it means you probably parked it in the cold on a hill. And the little float that tells the valve, the fuel tank not to suck air is telling the fuel tank you got no fuel because it all ran to the back. Now, even if you get it back on level ground, if that valve is stuck, it'll stay stuck in the you got no fuel position. I said, okay. He said, what you need to do is get somebody in the driver's seat, hand on the key. And then you need to get underneath and punch the bottom of that fuel tank a couple of times or hit it with an umbrella or something and get that fuel float to move. It's that simple. No parts change. Just kick the fuel tank. True story. 20 degrees and raining outside. I threw a blanket on the ground. I crawled underneath that truck and I told my son, as soon as you hear me hit it, hit the starter. And it fired up on the first start. Now, I know that sounds a little crazy, but I can tell you, I still own that crazy old truck now. We bought it in 2014. Bought it in 2014. We still have it today, 12 years later. If it gets below a quarter of a tank and it's parked on a hill, it still does the same thing. Our driveway's flat now, but the last house we lived in 3 years ago, that driveway was on a hill. And if I backed it into that driveway with less than a quarter of a tank, it wouldn't start until I got underneath it and hit that tank. I did learn how to do it with an umbrella or a tire thumper so that I didn't have to get on the ground every time. But see, this is what I'm talking about. No AI agent would have known that. No AI agent would say, climb underneath the truck and hit it. That's not in the menu. That's not a normal thing to do. That's not in the parts list. And unless some human had said, oh, by the way, here's a little insider trick that's unorthodox, it's not normal, they would have said, hey, tow it to a dealership, get a new fuel pump. That's my guess. I don't know. I've never asked AI that. Maybe you should. But I can tell you this for certain. If your only aspect of wealth in your mindset has to do with, can I return the cash on the cash that I put in? I mean, obviously your objective is to make your money make babies. I get that. But a money mindset and a wealthy mindset are not the same thing. And I want to challenge you to think about what you invest in. Is it the people? Is it knowledge? Is it experience? Is it data? Is it information? Or is it all of that together? Knowing that you're surrounding yourself with less people, with fewer people. I encourage you to invest deeply in yourself and your people skills so that while you're out there shaking hands, you're meeting people that are quality enough for you to invest in them, and you know how to know the difference. That way you can have a wealthy mindset and invest in a legacy and not just cash flow. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
This 6 weeks guided program is specifically designed for those people who say, I know I need to tell stories
I need to tell better stories because the ones I have are boring or they're not getting across. Or as John Maxwell says, everyone communicates and, well, few connect. Now, as a participant in this course, what I would really love to know from you, put it in the discussion on the course if you're already registered online. Send me a chat, send me a DM, send me a text, send me an email. I'd really love to know what you hope to get out of this course. Now, I can tell you what we're going to discuss, and I can tell you what I plan to teach and train you on, and I can tell you even what we plan to discuss each week on the calls for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to go over all of that for you in just a moment. I can also tell you that my clients who get the greatest success are the ones who apply the Story Power process to their business development to increase their impact, their influence, and their income. Now, the Story Power process includes story mining, story selection, story qualification, story crafting, connecting with your audience, and leading the narrative. And if you leave any one of those parts out, you're going to find that, well, you're just not as effective as you want to be. You're not going to grow your business to the same level. You're not going to lead with impact and influence like you hope to. I can also tell you that the people who apply these things, well, they're not failing in their business. The reason a lot of people fail in their business is they continue to fail to connect the solution they offer with the problem that their clients have. The pain and the solution never come together. And a lot of that failure is because they're not clearly articulating how their solution solves someone else's problem. It comes down to a question something like this: who do you help and how? Yes, that's one of the first things we're going to discuss over the next 6 weeks of Boost Your Business with Story Power.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership